It's the Underpowered Hour. On this week's show, we talk all about the brand new Lexus GX and how it stacks up to the Land Rover Defender. And then our first interview from ANARC with our very good friend Steve Owen, who is the only person who drove his 80-inch to the event. And now, here's the show. Welcome to the Underpowered Hour. I'm Steve Barris, mild-mannered television executive by day and Land Rover collector by night. You can find out more about our cars and what we're working on at thebarriscollection.com or follow us on Instagram at thebarriscollection. I'm joined, as always, by my good friend, Ike Goss.
Thank you to everyone joining us today. I own and operate Pangolin 4x4 in Springfield, Oregon, where we live and breathe Land Rovers. Check us out online on Facebook, Instagram at Pangolin 4x4. Let's get started.
All right, Liza. Well, we are back, or I am back from ANARC. Jenna and Ike are still out there somewhere in the United States, driving the van, pulling the Steve McQueen car behind them through North America, visiting Land Rover people all over the country.
They really committed to this trip when they decided to drive the Steve McQueen car all the way out there and all the way back. You were gone for a long time, but they have been gone far longer than you were out of town.
That's true. When they committed the night before to decide to do this, they really committed wholeheartedly. That is true. Yeah, so they're on their way back, and we'll see them in the near future. But for today, it's just you and I, and a special interview in the interview series of things we recorded at ANARC. We're actually talking to Steve Owen this afternoon, who is one of the few people, but I would absolutely say the only 80-inch Series 1 owner that actually drove his car to ANARC.
He drove it a long way.
A super long way from OshKosh, Wisconsin to essentially Syracuse, New York. And that is a super long drive. There are folks with like relatively new Defenders that trailered them like less than 200 miles. So we talk about it with Steve a little bit. Steve is my hero for sure.
He seems like a character. I'm actually really looking forward to listening to today's interview. You guys got a lot of great content while you were out there. I got to say, I'm really proud of you.
Well, you know, we do what we can. We recorded, I think it was like 8 or 9 interviews over the course of the weekend, and it was great. It was really great. We talked to some absolutely fabulous people, no less than 4 Camel Trophy participants.
Amazing.
And even better than that, the team of Jim Sweat and Daphne Green. That is the first time we've ever had a team.
Daphne Green is by far one of my biggest influences and one of my biggest heroes. Obviously, for obvious reasons, now that I am in the world of off-road rally driving, obviously she's, right up there in my books of being somebody that sets a phenomenal example for other women in the off-roading world.
Absolutely. And she is smart and cool and adventurous and wonderful and incredibly warm and great. And Jim is, of course, as well, Jim Sweat, who has been on the show kind of before. They both him and Fred Munsey were on the show together at Destination Defender, but due to a variety of issues, none the least of which were people not wanting to stop buying merchandise and having side conversations while we were trying to do a podcast.
It was so loud in that tent.
That recording was lost to time, but we were lucky enough to get both Fred and Jim back for interviews. So we have righted that wrong, and not any less than Tim Hensley joined Frank Munsey, of course, winner of the 1993 Camel Trophy, the car that's behind you. Tim won that year, and so we actually got him on the show with Fred, and it was just so much fun, super fun. So
but
those
that
are coming
is not
up.
Today's interview.
No, it's not at all. No.
Our listeners are going to have to subscribe, and they're going to have to tune in later to hear those
Smash
ones.
that like button. Yeah.
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 We will have those interviews later throughout the summer. We, ANARC was really great on our end for being able to bank a ton of content. which is going to be really good because we have a really busy summer ahead of us.
We do.
But,
we have a hugely busy summer.
Do you have anything else before we jump into this interview?
Well, speaking of coming up later this year, I'm not sure if you've had an opportunity to see the new Lexus GX.
I have.
Yeah,
I have some opinions.
It looks Defendery. Well, not only do you have some opinions, but I'll tell you what, our good friends over at Hot Cars, an automotive journalistic cornerstone, if you will, certainly, they are the Wall Street Journal, I think, of super opinionated and mostly wrong ideas about cars. They're welcome to come after me. Come get me, But they have come up with an article stating 10 ways the 2024 Lexus GS will outshine the Land Rover Defender. So I thought maybe I would just go through some of these and get your opinion on what you think. So first of all, number 10, the 2024 Lexus GS uses the body-on-frame TNGA-F platform. As we know, everything before -F was total shit, but the -F, yeah, that's, I guess, really where they're driving things. So it is a body-on-frame car, similar to a classic Land Rover, like, of course, every Land Rover up to the Discovery 4. I don't know if I care. I think the rigidity of the new Defender, and we have seen that tested, and we've talked to Bob Ives about it and stuff, where, the unibody chassis, frame, everything all together is pretty friggin' rigid. And, we've done some stupid things with the new Defender, and save crushing the air dam in a way that you can break an intercooler. It's pretty rough and pretty solid. It's not, I don't know that Lexus has the sort of antiquated technology now. They also have a mechanical fan on the front of the engine, which I think is sort of weird. You don't really see cars with that anymore. Anyways.
I don't have a problem with the Lexus brand in general. You see a lot of Lexuses on the Rebelle. In fact, Emily Miller, who pre-runs the whole course herself, does it in her Lexus. Now, she's got a lot of aftermarket upgrades to the suspension, care of total chaos, and things like that. But it's a pretty badass car. I think the Lexus definitely has a place. It's not my choice. And when I put the Lexus and the Defender up against each other and I look at them like for real, I don't think there is that much of a comparison. I think they're completely different vehicles. I think there's a lot of memes that I've seen in some of the new Defender owners groups on Facebook and places where they put them side by side. And if you match the color, they look like sister cars. There's definitely some inspiration being borrowed. Yes. But really, ultimately, they're such different cars. I think that this article is written by somebody who clearly does not like Land Rovers.
No, there's no shortage of those.
Yeah. And this Lexus is just a great way to kind of like bash Land Rover a little bit. Go for it. That's fine.
I think Lexus owners are largely uninteresting people. But
the biggest thing in this article that I do think has a little bit of merit is towards the end of the article, they talk about the maintenance cost difference. Now, this is with a Lexus that hasn't even come out yet, so they're speculating based on other Lexus models.
Yeah, this could be a shitty one. You never know.
You never know. But sure, Lexus is, by all intents and purposes, it appears to be cheaper to maintain than a new Defender.
Yes.
Fine. I'll give them that.
That's fine.
That's valid and a consideration for some people.
But not as much fun to maintain.
We like to set money on fire in the Barris household. So, that doesn't seem to be at the top of our consideration list.
Yeah, they're also saying, the base engine has more torque. That, I suppose, is true. There is a more economical hybrid engine. That is true. The Lexus has more forward gears. I don't understand it's 10-speed versus 8-speed, but seriously, man, 10 forward speeds. Like, come on. It's like it's a Fast and Furious car. It's just constantly shifting. Constantly shifting. It can tow 1,000 pounds more. That's largely to do by the fact that it's heavier. It has a way bigger infotainment screen. I don't care.
Infotainment screens are getting too big.
Too big.
The
it's
one
too big,
that is in our Ford Lightning is it's a
whole front of the car.
It's a widescreen TV turned on its end, so it's portrait orientation. And it's too big. It's enormous.
I don't
it's
care.
enormous.
I don't care.
Doesn't need to be that big.
21 speakers versus 17 speakers. Again, I don't care. That is completely irrelevant. Like you said, it retains its value potentially. It's a brand new car that they haven't even made yet, so I think it's impossible to make the assertion that it retains its value.
Yeah.
Generally speaking, Lexus may retain their value better than Land Rover, but I don't see many people driving their 80-inch Lexuses to festivals in New York. So moot point again. And, it's apparently a more reliable vehicle. Again, has never even come out. I don't know how you would ever know that.
They're speculating based on other Lexus models. That's all they're doing at this point.
Sure.
Really, all we've seen are some photographs of a car that kind of resembles a Defender. And that's kind of where it's at the moment. So once you get a real working prototype and you get your reputable journalists behind the wheel telling me how the steering feel is, then we can talk about it.
Until a vehicle's steering feel has been independently adjudicated, as we all know, the only thing that matters with a new vehicle is how is the steering feel. And unless you've thoroughly tested that and written about it, and it's really the only conversation you need to have. It's the only thing anybody cares about. How's the steering feel?
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, feels like steering, I'll bet. That's my guess, is that you turn it and the wheels go in that direction. If they don't, you've got a big problem. You've got a big problem. So yeah, well, again, thanks to everybody who came and saw us at the ANARC event. We saw 1,000 people, I think, over the course of the weekend. Everyone that was there, we met each one of them individually, greeted them.
My FOMO was so high. You guys were sending me photos.
Yes.
Starting at about 4:00 in the morning, my time.
Yes.
You guys were sending me photos that looked like you were having no fun at all.
That's right. It was just Ike getting ready for the day, actually. That was it was a montage every morning.
What was the ski resort like where they held it? It looked cool.
It was neat.
It looked like a neat place to hold something like this.
It was Greek Peak in Cortland, New York. The staff was absolutely wonderful. They got us everything we needed, no matter how odd the request. We had couches with beautiful little Land Rover blankets that they had found somewhere for the hot stove lounge. We had a beautiful live edge oak table in front of us. They've got some great chairs for Jeff and I to do the morning show.
I think you and Jeff may have really found your calling together.
We definitely hit Pete Aronson during those things. It was pretty fantastic.
I would love to see the two of you commentate like a combine demolition derby or something. I think that's clearly the next stage where your career needs to go.
Well, if you have something out there and you need commentating, Jeff and I are available. Just let us know. Reach out to Liza and she'll book us in for that. So happy to do that anytime. But yeah, no, it was wonderful. Of course, we had the Dream Machine there, as well as Steve McQueen Series 2A was there with us as well. Plenty of folks coming up and taking photos with Jenna and the Dream Machine. And it was pretty wonderful.
And then the Dream Machine finally came home this week. Oh, it's so nice to have her back.
It's in two-wheel drive only, as the differential exploded on the way up to Greek Peak, but that's all right. We'll get that sorted.
Just add it to the list of things that we need to do on all of the cars that are in our workshop. That's
right. There's always something to do when you have a fleet of... It wouldn't be that way if we had a fleet of Lexuses. I'll tell you what, they'd all be fine. No problems at all. You'd have zero problems. Lexus never had a problem, ever. Nothing's ever gone wrong with them. No, you don't even have to put oil in them. You just go. And it was great though. I have to say the best part of it for me, besides all the fantastic cars and all of the fantastic events, was just getting to meet all these wonderful people that we talk to all the time, getting to see people that we don't see very often. Ben Smith, Dixon Kenner, all these folks that we interact with on the internet. In the case of Dixon, on an almost daily or semi-daily basis. And to spend time, we had lunch, Dixon and Ben and Jenna and I, and it was just wonderful. Really a lot of fun and some amazing cars. Bill Cooper had a good portion of his cars. I felt like he was taking them home for 3 straight days afterwards. I kept seeing him Sunday, then he was there Monday, then he was there. We got to sit with him and his wife, Nick Dimbleby, and Jenna and Ike and I one night and sort of reminisce and talk about he wants a Camel Trophy car. He has some amazing cars. He has the 2 Canadian Prototype 101 forward control cars. He has a Pink Panther. He has a beautiful recreation Range Rover Camel Trophy car. It's a tribute car. He's got, we were bombing around in his 80-inch that he bought from Ike. Amazing car. The one thing he really wants is a Camel Trophy car. So now Ike and I have made it our mission to see if we can't suss one out for him. And I'll trade him for those 2 Canadian forward controls. At any rate, Dixon will have one and I'll have one, but it'll be great. They should be with Canadians. I mean, it's only fair. But really wonderful. Really great to see everybody. Great to see those cars. We're going to have to buy that fire truck now. The Firefly, it is pretty cool. It's got such an adorable little siren and stuff. It's really wonderful. Yeah, really wonderful.
Just,
pile it on.
Pile it on.
Yep, pile it on. Yeah, it's all good. So that being said, speaking of all the wonderful cars that were at ANARC this year, there was one particularly wonderful car, and that was Steve Owens' 80-inch that, again, as we said at the top, he drove there from Wisconsin, from OshKosh, Wisconsin.
I need to hear all about it. As somebody who lived in Wisconsin, at one point in my life.
Right.
I would really love to hear more about how this came to be.
It is a wonderful story. So without further delay, let's play that tape. Let me hit. We actually recorded everything on 8-track. So let me pop the 8-track into the machine and press play, and we'll go from there. So we'll come back after that. All right. Well, we're here back again at the ANARC Diamond Jubilee 75th anniversary of Her Majesty's Land Rover with none other than maybe the only person that actually drove their Land Rover here and didn't bring it here on a trailer, present company included. Mr. Steve Owen, you came all the way from Wisconsin in your 80-inch Land Rover. Welcome to the show, sir. You are a gentleman, a scholar, and a hero of series Land Rover drivers the world over.
Yeah, it seems that way. Yes, I drove the 80-inch from OshKosh, Wisconsin, 793 miles, 4 days,
Yes.
200 miles a day.
Yes.
They say I'm the hero.
Yes. Yes. How do you feel, though?
To be honest, an emotional roller coaster. I've had highs.
Yes.
I've had lows.
Yes.
I've been...
Were the highs related to the fumes in the vehicle?
It's a small exhaust leak.
No. It's probably more to the caffeine I was drinking.
Right.
But no, there was some, as Ike, and I'll say this, that I owe a lot to Ike and Pangolin 4x4, for those who know the history of the AD, but he's helped me out over the years. He actually bailed me out because my brakes failed 10 days before this trip.
Right. And out of jail a number of times.
Yeah. So...
Unrelated. It's a different podcast, but yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, there was that intrepidation of actually driving the 80 here.
Yeah.
And there was always that nervousness, that nervous energy of what could go wrong.
That's right.
What's going to go wrong. And when I got here, all that went away.
Yeah.
It was like a euphoria. It was like, oh, I've made it.
It's mostly because you stopped driving, but
possibly.
I'm not folded into a little triangle here. Yeah, exactly.
For those who don't know, I'm 6'4" and 250 pounds, and 80 inches were not built for people like me.
No.
So, a lot of planning went into this trip. Obviously, you just can't jump on the interstate and drive at 40 miles an hour.
Yeah.
I will say probably the heroes of this trip is not me, the 4 gentlemen from the Minnesota Land Rover Club, who followed me.
Right. Not in 80-inch Land Rovers.
No, there was a 109 ex-military ambulance, Series 2A. There was 2 109 station wagons, and a 91 Range Rover Classic.
Okay, so save the Range Rover Classic. Those other cars aren't appreciably faster than you, so you're all in at least a pace that's reasonable.
Yeah, the 109s will sit at 50, 55.
Yeah.
So, that speed difference.
10 miles faster than you, maybe, but
miles.
Yeah.
They had to sit for the almost 800 miles looking at the rear end of an 80-inch.
It's not so bad.
Yeah,
No,
I would say there's plenty of places that I would rather be behind an 80-inch than in. So that's
good. It's a good show. I mean, part of it being here is meeting like yourselves.
Yeah.
Excellent company.
Yes.
Other people like Joe, we just mentioned in his Waffle, and Bill Cooper, and obviously Dixon and Ben Smith and the guys from Ottawa I already knew because of the connection with OshKosh and the Earth Show.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's been a fun trip. It still is a fun trip. The weather could be a little better.
Yeah, it's a bit English today. It was a little nicer yesterday. It looks as though it's kind of it's raining intermittently.
Stasis.
But it is fun. We spoke this morning when Jeff Aronson and I did the live show that Jeff's interested in seeing everybody on the slippery grass and and all that. So it should be a good bit of fun, but it is an amazing event, and I agree, Steve. Like just seeing folks that we've known but have not met in person, and those folks that we only see every so often, or somebody like Dixon that I talk to on a daily basis on the internet or something, right, is to actually spend some time, have a meal, whatever. Ben, who I don't see that often, it's just great.
I've been asked if I'm going to do the trails.
Yeah.
My answer to that is I do have to drive home.
That's right. Well, Ike brought quite a few tools. So
let's take your 80-inch on the trails. I'd be happy to help you fix anything that goes wrong. And if something breaks, I can always leave. So it's
right.
That's
right. That's right. And
exit stage left rather quickly, saying, "Well, I told you."
Ike has fixed 80-inch Land Rovers in the middle of rivers. This is really not that exotic so far as Ike fixing shitty old Land Rovers in exotic locations. So no problem.
I'll see. We are trying. There's I think 6 80s here.
Yeah.
And we are trying to get them together.
Yes.
And do a photo op.
That'd be great.
Hopefully tomorrow. I mean, everybody's got schedules.
Yes.
I think they're doing like a Barbara Toy drive tomorrow, right? And
Yes,
I
they
don't know
are.
if that's all 80 inches or all ladies or...
It's all ladies.
All ladies.
All
nice.
ladies in 80s.
Yes.
Ladies in 80s. I love it.
Which
I
is,
love it.
Yeah, also an Instagram account that I have.
I would also subscribe to that Instagram account.
It's not what you think it is, though.
Oh,
Yeah,
no.
yeah.
Not ladies in their 80s.
Yes, it's 100%. Yeah, they're great. It's some good. They're tasteful photos.
Tasteful.
They're tasteful photos. I think you'd enjoy it.
I know Jenna's planning to do that drive tomorrow, and that'd be cool to see.
I'm going to see that and see what happens. I mean, I can bring mine over. It's just the trip. This whole thing has just been one big adventure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hard to explain it. I mean, I'm sat here, we're talking, and it's difficult to explain it. I think I'm going to have to when I get back.
Assuming you get back.
Then I think I can sort of decompress it more.
Yeah, right.
Right now, it's just so much.
You're still in it.
Still in it.
Yeah,
it's
that's
still
right.
in that
That's right.
world. And
It's been a long road for those listeners that don't know. You found this vehicle in a shed or in a barn.
Yeah. So for those that don't know, I'm originally from the UK. I moved here in 1992. I've always had Land Rovers. I took my driving test in an 88-inch short wheelbase in the UK in a snowstorm in four-wheel drive. Story in itself. Moved here in 92. I didn't have a work permit. I was driving around and I saw the Land Rover parked up in a driveway underneath a tarp and just the front end, and I knew what it was. And I stopped, tried to buy it, asked about it, but it was the gentleman's father-in-law's vehicle,
Right.
and he towed it from Arizona to OshKosh, and he was always going to restore it. That was 1992. Because of the job I do, and Ike mentioned the other day, I install fireplaces for a living. I went to do some fireplaces and some service work. The Land Rover was always there, never moved. 2007, sadly, he passed away. Me being me was like literally rubbing my hands thinking, estate sale, I got a chance here.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, when they had the estate sale, I was back in the UK visiting family, disappeared. Fast forward a few more years, 2010, I went to a house about 45 miles away to put a wood stove in, bit like
our little hot stove here. Right. Yeah.
Put a wood stove in, and the guy said, "Oh, you're English." I said, "Yeah." He opened the barn door, and quote unquote, I went, "Oh, expletive. There's John McDonald's Land Rover."
Yeah, that's right.
Wow. And he said, "Oh, you know all about it?" I said, "Yes, I do." And he wouldn't sell it to me. And again, same story. I'm going to restore it. Anyway, fast forward a few more years, actually 7 years, and this was 6 years ago now, 2017, I went back to the house to put a second unit in, and his wife was there. And after I got done with the project, I asked them how they were doing with the Land Rover, and I hit a nerve. To say the least. Every other word was F or effing, and I'm like, whoa, and I'm like, oh, God, what have I done here? Long story, they got divorced. He'd been booted out of the house. And
so this Land Rover is cursed.
So what you're saying
cursed.
Is your inquiry into this Land Rover caused a divorce?
And a death.
Yeah, and maybe a death.
A death, well,
possibly.
But no, I think the divorce happened before, But they had actually been divorced about 4 years, and he'd abandoned it.
I see. Okay.
Abandoned the Land Rover.
Yep.
She'd try to get him to move it, and never happened. And then she remembered, that I was interested in it. There was some legalities with the title and the divorce and attorneys, and we all know how that works. That was in February of 17, and actual fact, in June 9th of 2017, I purchased the vehicle.
Wow.
Now, this is where it got interesting.
So that's a 14-year span.
It's 25 years.
Well, from the time you saw it to the time you bought it is 25 years?
25 years.
Oh, wow.
1992.
92.
Right.
92 to 2017.
Amazing.
25 years. And everybody has told me it was meant to be.
Right.
Oh, yeah, I can subscribe to that.
Sure.
But then the fun starts, because I knew I had a Series 1 80-inch Land Rover. That's no surprise. I mean, I had been a Land Rover freak. What I did not realize is how rare they are in North America, and especially in the United States.
Yeah.
And this is when I started to make phone calls. So you call the usual suppliers, and everybody gave me the same name. You got to call Ike. You got to call Ike. Oh, it's a Series 1. You got to call Ike.
There's only one man. Crazy enough.
And I'm like, who's Ike?
Yeah.
And finally, I picked up the phone and I called Ike.
There you
and as they say, the rest is history, because one thing, and Ike, we've talked about this earlier, none of the steering was original on my 80-inch. It was homemade, it worked, but it was a death trap. And my first call, once I'd introduced myself to Ike, was, well, I need some steering parts. And he goes, well, yeah, I've got it. What do you need? I said, well, open the parts page.
Right.
Everything on
Just
that page
yeah,
I need.
That's right.
And just send it, and Ike was like, okay, yeah. And yes, he came through. Within, I think, 4 weeks, he called me back and shipped everything. And that saved the project, because everything else on the vehicle is original to the vehicle.
Right.
And again, Ike has overhauled my starter motor, he's overhauled my dynamo for me, and a few other things. But the vehicle, the rims, the radiator, which I record, but are all original.
Yeah.
It's not modified. It's still on a positive ground.
Yep.
It's still on a dynamo, and there's no modifications, modern modifications to the vehicle. So
that's so cool. I mean, and I think unfortunately there are fewer and fewer of the really original cars, especially original cars that have such a great story.
Yeah.
I think what warms my heart about your story specifically is that you lusted after this car for 25 years and finally got it. We have so many people who say, "Oh, where do you get these cars? You guys have all these crazy cars, or you have it." And it's persistence. It's understanding that, well, it's something I want. Maybe it's not for sale today, but sort of checking in on it, and to see that happen 25 years later, and also with a bit of luck involved, it's just fantastic.
I would say a little luck, a little persistence, and a whole lot of luck. I would say probably 99% luck, because
you had to cause a divorce. There was many things you had to do to get
it
to.
Yeah, went in line. But the other part of this story is one of the original owners, Betty McDonald. Now, her father owned the vehicle in Arizona.
Okay.
And Betty's 96.
Wow.
Still alive. And she's actually been for a ride in it.
Oh, that's cool.
We had to she's in a nursing home.
Yep.
And we had to get a Hoyer and lift her in and lift her out. But we actually did go around the block, and she was, she actually drove that vehicle in Arizona when her father had it. She actually, early on, because when I purchased the vehicle, I called Betty, former client, and I said, Betty, I've got the Land Rover, and she was so happy, because she figured out I'd probably actually do something with it.
Mm-hmm.
And she actually, about a month into this, called me up and said, I got a bunch of paperwork. And I went over, picked it up, and it's the original bill of sale from Arizona, from roots in Los Angeles to the person. It was a Dr. Robert Reed in Arizona, and then all the sales slips and the Arizona title transfers that were done in the 60s and 70s.
That's cool.
So I now have full
all the way back
provenance
to roots from the factory.
From the factory, I got my heritage certificate from Gaydon and everything. So not only is the history of me and how I acquired the vehicle, and I don't own it, it's on loan to me.
Right.
Because when I'm done, I can't drive it. I'm sure somebody else hopefully is going to cherish it as much as I do. So that story just took on a life of its own, and kind of overwhelms me, because I'm not really this kind of publicity-seeking person.
I think people are just interested in your story. They want to hear about it. It's
absolutely.
Not like that you're seeking the publicity necessarily, but I think that your story, your Land Rover journey, really resonates with Land Rover owners. This is what it's all about. This is taking something that you found and polishing it and making it nice and making it useful and using it and caring for it and having fun and, meeting people and having a community of people that support your efforts. I think that's great. And that's really what we all want to see in our Land Rover ownership. So
I want to see it in the world. It'd make it a better place.
Yeah, that's right.
I totally agree.
You cannot not smile when you see somebody driving along in an 80-inch, especially if they're 6.5 feet tall. That's that makes
it's a happy car. And I was having this conversation with people earlier, and they were like, "What do you why do you like these old cars?" And I was like, I like them because they're happy. The headlights are round. You look at the newer cars, and they just get bigger and more aggressive, and they just are bulging with muscular arches and big hood scoops, and they've got angry headlights, and you look in your mirror, and it's just this person is angry, this person, and that's not what I want in my Land Rover experience. I want a happy car that people are genuinely happy to see. People have fun in it.
Yeah.
And I think your journey really speaks to that. It's just everybody gets a smile on their face when they see you driving the car, and then they hear about what you went through to make this happen. It's really cool.
Thank you. Yeah, that hits it on the head, nail on the head. The other thing is no navigation in my car. I don't have
that's
sat
right.
nav.
The GPS doesn't work, I guess.
The GPS doesn't work. And for those that don't know, what I do is when I start planning a journey like this, and this is a second long distance. This will be the furthest because I did round Lake Michigan in 21.
Right.
So this one is...
Well, round trip, you're 1,500 some odd miles.
Yeah, it was just shy of 1,500. Yeah. This one's going to be closer to, by the time I get back, closer to 1,800.
Wow.
So
wow.
A little further. But I plan it by using Google Cycle app.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. That's a great tip.
And the only drawback to that is you have to be careful because it will put you on rails to trails.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And so the first part is of planning a trip like this in an 80 or even in a series for that matter is use a cycle app. That keeps you off all the major highways, all the interstates, and then start using Street View to see what the roads are like.
To kind of do a little
because a number of times I clicked on it and I'm on a railroad track
like,
and I'm like,
that's not going to work.
I gotta zoom out and see where I am and then just move it over. Then what I do then is I transcribe the route and I write it down on a piece of paper.
Right.
And I don't know if I showed Ike the other day when you were... I then have a magnet on the dashboard.
Right.
That holds the paper.
Yep.
And then I just cross off my waypoint. So it's like, turn left on 393 here. So 4 miles. So I'm looking over at the, 4 miles. Okay.
I mean, this is exactly like sort of a tulip chart or like a rally.
Yeah, I was going to say, you're basically a rally driver.
Yeah, so they make the little scroll maps, and so you could ride it all on the scroll.
Yeah, for overland bikes.
One of my friends back home said I should have done it on a toilet roll.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. You just kind of go through, and it's double use as well. Like that you've got a little bit. Yeah, it's
and once you're done with it, you can use it somewhere else. So that's how I get here. Just using old-fashioned map.
You made it. Yeah.
We only got lost twice. No, not lost.
Right.
I got misdirected a couple of times. One put me through a housing estate in Niagara Falls, Ontario.
Right.
I missed a turn, so I just went to the next and
you
realized...
drove into somebody's living room, and you're like, wait a minute.
It's a driveway, I was like, okay, we got to do that. And then the part of the route, once we crossed over back into the U.S., put me through the ghetto area of Niagara Falls, USA.
Yeah.
So that was a little...
it's a stark contrast between Niagara, Ontario, and...
it is night and day.
Yeah.
I mean, the Canadian side... we didn't... I'm actually stopping on the way back for a couple of days, but there is a contrast of...
It is, it's a pretty big difference.
The commercial side and the commercialism and everything else. It's quite a contrast. But the other thing with what we find doing the back roads is you meet people. Everywhere we stop for gas, people come in, start talking to you, photographs. So if you want to do it, there's no such thing as a quick pit stop for gas.
Right.
Because everybody wants to come up
15, 20 minutes. Everybody comes, what have you got? What are you doing?
Yep.
Especially when you got, other vehicles with you. So that's why I love driving the 80.
Yes. Absolutely.
Even around Wisconsin, it is driven. I think since I put it on the road in 2020, now I'm over 10,000 miles.
Wow. That's fantastic.
On the old meter.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Just driving.
That's fantastic. I have to think, save maybe Ike and Linus, I don't know too many people that have, that kind of yearly use of their Series 1 Land Rover. That's really cool.
Most of them are limited, and honestly, if you look back, like that, the original use was like the farmer's friend sort of situation. So
it wasn't meant to go very far.
It's like relatively limited mileages. You see people, they turn up these old Land Rovers and they've got 80,000 miles on them. Like, this only has 80,000 miles on it. Like, who would want to drive it further than that? It's not really that surprising. Like, how many tractors are high mileage tractors?
Exactly right. That's exactly right.
But at the same time, I really do appreciate when people use the cars and take trips in them. And like you said, really get out there and meet people and talk to people. And I think everyone has an appreciation for that. And it goes back to my earlier comments, like, you get so many people that come up to you because the vehicles are approachable.
Yes.
They're not.
Yeah.
It's not an aggressive or intimidating vehicle. It's very approachable. It's small. It's not It's efficient. It's light. It's, you know, it's all the things that I think we all want in a Land Rover, but we can't get anymore. You know?
That's right. Yeah, they're not light or maybe efficient after a fashion, but I think an 80-inch Land Rover would completely fit inside of a new 90, like a Pelican case for it. You could just slide it inside. But yeah, no, it is great. And Steve, I can't say enough how incredible it is that all these folks, we talked about it with their Discoveries and Defenders on trailers coming from 200 miles away.
Yeah.
It's
when I saw people, I'm trailing it in, I'm 100 and 200 miles away, and I wrote, drive it.
Yeah, that's right.
That's exactly what I put on the post.
Exactly right.
Drive it. I said, if
it.
I can do 800 miles in a Series 1, you can do 200 in a...
exactly.
In a
Defender
Discovery
or a 300
Defender.
TDI Defender or something.
Yeah,
exactly.
I mean,
No, and I think that's it. I think that's the takeaway is drive it, you know. And if Steve can do it, you can do it. That's what they're built for. That's what they love doing. And like you said, going across, especially a country like the United States that is so vast, or Canada, that is so vast. The distances between points mean that you're stopping, you're eating locally, you're getting gas. You're not just on the interstate at 120 miles an hour whizzing by the world. You're in it. You're enjoying it, and you're meeting people, and that's fantastic.
Yeah, and that's the other thing is, you mentioned, stopping to eat. We always find a local family-run restaurant. No chains, no Hardee's, McDonald's, Pizza Hut, or anything. We always find it's usually a brewery.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Or a bar.
Yeah.
Or a local. Yeah. And one restaurant we stopped at in Michigan, they'd only opened 2 days prior to us stopping there.
They knew you were coming.
They knew you were there. Like, we got to be open.
And we just saw it, and I pulled in, and we all parked up and said, "How did you find us?" I said, "You were here.
Yeah,
you were on the route.
By.
We pulled in. We need something to eat. We had a break and something to eat." And they're like, "Really?"
Some of my favorite experiences driving Land Rovers is like when I pull into a town and they're having a fair and people are cooking food or somebody's got a barbecue going, and you stop, and it's just like those coincidental sort of meals where you're in the right time at the right place. I was up in Canada on Main Island, of all places, which is a little obscure. There's like a kayak rental and not much else.
Yeah.
And my friend, it's like 12 o'clock at night, and he's like, "Hey, let's go find some pie." And you're like, "Where are we going to find a pie on this like remote island?" And sure enough, we started walking along. We're there to get a Land Rover, and we start walking along. This lady's walking her dog, and we were like, "Hey, do you know where to get some pie around here?" And she's like, "I just made one today. It's a pecan chocolate pie. Would you like some?" And we just happened to find this.
That only happens in Canada, though.
It's just so. I mean, it's synchronistic, right?
Yeah.
Like you just happen to be in the right place at the right time, and that happens more often. And this is where it's relevant. This happens more often when you're in a slow old car because you're stopping. You're interacting with the places that you're driving through instead of just whizzing past.
Yeah,
and so. That's one of the things I really like about these sorts of trips, and that's why I really enjoy hearing about your trip, Steve. And thank you so much for coming by and talking with us.
Thank you for having me and putting up with me.
Well, the next trip, Steve, has got to be out to us on the West Coast, slightly farther, but
actually, you talked about that. So my next trip, there's a trail. No, a trail. It's a road called the Yellowstone Trail.
Yeah.
Which was the first unofficial transcontinental highway. It ran from Plymouth, Massachusetts to Seattle.
Yeah.
And for those that don't know, there is a website on it. It was basically townships getting together to improve the roads to bring in tourists. And it just kind of joined the dots. And there's a group of people now resurrecting that highway.
So what percentage of it is complete or contiguous?
About 80%.
Yeah.
Wow.
But a lot of it, some of it's like, it's like Route 66.
Yeah.
A lot of it, some of it's under interstates. Some of it's no longer there. Some of it's gravel roads in Montana. And what they've done on their website is they've got the old route, and it ran from 1912 to 1928, and then the federal government started building highways, so that kind of was the death knell. So what they've done is got modern maps and overlaid the original. That is probably going to be my next trip.
Cool.
And I think the plan there is to ship, and this goes against everything we've talked about this morning, but the plan there, I think, is because the Yellowstone Trail, and I only found out this literally 2 months ago, is 1 block from my house in OshKosh.
There you go.
It went through OshKosh, and it's a block away. So I think the plan
meant to be.
It's meant to be.
Yeah.
It's
so the plan
serendipitous,
is to ship it probably to the West Coast first, to Seattle, and then drive it back to OshKosh. So I end up at home. Yeah. And then the next time, ship it to Plymouth, and then come back from the east to west.
To the west.
So if I do that, I'll park it at Ike's for a while.
Absolutely.
It's not that far. How far are you from Springfield, Oregon to Seattle?
It's just a few hours.
Yeah, it's not that bad.
Is that few hours modern or few hours my speed?
It's 5 hours.
Okay.
It's 5 hours, so it's not so bad.
So it's a day for me.
Yeah, just bring it by. We'd be happy to have you, and we'll do some 80-inch driving, and it'll be wonderful.
Yeah, it'll probably be, if all goes well, 2025. But that is one of my next goals, is to do the Yellowstone Trail.
That's awesome.
So I got to do some research and, find a way of shipping it, because I just don't see me driving both ways.
No. So for people that want to follow your trips and adventures and see some of your pictures and that sort of thing, I know you're on a few of the social media sites. How would those folks find you?
So I have a Facebook page for my Land Rover. If you type in 1953 Land Rover Series 1 export model, you should be able to find the page and then request to join it. I have it locked up as a private group.
Yep.
It does have more friends than me. I think I'm over 500 or pretty close to 500. 464 members right now, and I've taken 4 or 5 this last couple of days of being here. So anybody's welcome. Don't censor it. If you want to post something about your Land Rover on there, you're more than welcome. Obviously, I've never taken any post down. Now, if you try to sell me a T-shirt, we might have a problem.
Right.
But no, anybody's welcome. They started on the day that I bought the vehicle, and anybody doing any restoration, there's tons and tons of albums and photographs of me, both the good and the bad, the mistakes I've made, and paid for them. Ike's got lots of money for that.
Oh, no.
No. But yeah, so the 1953 Series 1
Land Rover
export model. And just put that in your search on your Facebook page.
As well,
and it is a private group, but you have to request to join, but it's pretty straightforward.
So that's the best way for people to find you.
The best way to find me.
There's great articles in the Ottawa Valley newsletter. As Dixon just walked in, there's lots of great press that your car has gotten, and hopefully Jeff Aronson does an article about you in Rover Magazine for driving the car here. He certainly should.
The gentleman that just walked in over here will hound me for the next month. To get the articles out for Ottawa Valley.
Look forward to an Ottawa Valley article
and then
coming soon. Yeah.
I'll be doing one for Gary Busey and Full Grill.
Nice.
The register. That'll be the primary one, and then Ross at the Legend Series 1 Club has also asked for a story.
Awesome.
Not sure when they're going to be done, because my other hobby is aviation, and OshKosh has a big air show coming up, which I volunteer as a flight line operations operative. As soon as I get home, I'm the next back to that. So it will probably be I'm guessing, the fall, September, October.
Yeah, we'll look for that, and we'll post up when that comes
out. We get it out in the world. Well, hey, Steve, thank you so much for being here. Congratulations for being here. One of the very few people who drove their Land Rover here, and I say with some degree of confidence, probably one that's driven it the farthest, not on a trailer.
Be. Yeah, and the oldest. Definitely the nexus of the oldest furthest, I would say.
Yeah, because I would say the oldest furthest, because the Minnesota guys with the 109s
came with you. Yeah, absolutely.
Came with me. They've got 5 days into their journey.
Yeah.
So they had to get from Minneapolis area to OshKosh, and then the 4 days here. So they would say that driven the 109s the furthest, but I would agree with Ike that I'm probably the oldest. I'm probably the only 80-inch that was driven here.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. Of the 6 or 7 I've seen around.
That's right. Yeah,
I'm hoping we can get them all together to get a photo up. But
we're going to make that happen. We're going to make that happen. That's a worthwhile endeavor.
Well, thank you, gentlemen.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Steve. We appreciate it.
All right. Well, I love Steve Owen, and I can't even tell you how much I love that guy. He is
what a character.
The most cordial, warm, wonderful fireplace installer that just happens to have a 25-year love affair with a beautiful 80-inch Land Rover.
I have so much respect for driving halfway across the country in that car. Good for him.
As a follow-up, as he was saying during the interview, that he was very concerned about going out on the trails because he has to drive that car home.
Right. Don't break anything on the trail.
He was only halfway through his journey when we spoke to him.
That's the whole thing.
Event.
He then had to drive all the way. Did we ever follow up with him when he got home to make sure that he made it?
Funny enough, I actually haven't spoken with him.
We might want to do that.
He actually did lose all compression on one cylinder in his motor, wouldn't start.
Oh, dear.
And thankfully, he and Bill Cooper and Ike and a number of other folks were able to tear the car apart. And I think it was some valve springs that needed replacing. They resat some valves and they managed to get the car running and off. And Steve did leave successfully on Sunday morning to head home. And, he's either home now or he's about to get home, or he might still be en route. I mean, this was not that long ago. So I actually haven't spoken with him, but, I think we would have heard news if there was like a terrible Land Rover 80-inch with a 6.5-foot person explosion along
Well, Steve, if you're listening, you have to go to our Facebook group. You have to go to the Underpowered Hour Community Facebook group and just give us a little update and tell us how she did on the way home. We know you got to ANARC. Let's make sure you got home from ANARC.
Make sure you got with the team of folks, I believe, from Minnesota that were coming along with him. Minneapolis, there was a wonderful series ambulance that I'm sure everybody has seen doing the RTV course, going like Tokyo drifting into a turn that actually Abigail pointed out on the first day we were there that it was going up to do the trails. It was one of my favorite cars, and that was one of the folks I believe that was with Steve, and there's some amazing footage of that car. There was one corner on the RTV course that was downhill and particularly slippery and at a reasonable sort of 90-degree angle. And every car was fishtailing around. I mean, it looked like the Fast and the Furious going around there. It was hilarious. And that ambulance fishtailing out into that corner was just fantastic.
Spectacular.
So great video. Yeah.
Spectacular.
I'm pretty sure we've shared that on our Instagram, but if not, we'll tag it again. But really, really, really good stuff. So meanwhile, what's been happening here? I hear you went to a special Rebelle event while we were out in the wild.
Yeah, Rebelle Rally. They hosted an event at the Los Angeles Motoring Club the other night that was featuring the Art of Rebelle. So we took over the Motoring Club and they had a ton of Rebelle rigs. They had a whole bunch of cars. They asked for the Dream Machine. The Dream Machine literally showed up 24 hours later.
Yeah, like 24 hours later. Yeah. The guy tried. He was working hard to get it here in time, but there's no way.
They parked my Trek Defender out front as well, because obviously with all of the lights and the traction boards it looks pretty awesome. So I did still get Rockstar front row parking. But no, it was a really neat event. And it was, they had blown up a ton of photographs from different years of the Rebelle Rally. And of course, there was an absolutely breathtaking photo of us at the top of this huge hill in Dub Springs, and Jenna and I about to come down, that they called What Goes Up Must Come Down. I'm going to share that to my Instagram feed this week so that you can see the photo in question. So if you go to overland_her, I will have that photo up by the time this episode goes live. So you can see the photo that they blew up and had in large scale at the event. But it was really nice to see a lot of Rebelles and see a lot of the incredible photography that obviously showcases that event like no other. And so that was really neat, and had some great conversations with people. And I think it's safe to say that both Jenna and I are just so excited about the Rebelle this year. We've got big plans and new goals, and there's some exciting news coming down the pike. We also are featured in a magazine article that literally just came out on Friday. Yep. Molly My Mag was one of our sponsors last year, and they wrote a really great article about us. And so you can go to mollymymag.com and use their location finder to find a Barnes & Noble or a grocery store near you that carries it if you're interested in reading it. But yeah, we've got a lot going on the Rebelle front, and that training has been kind of ongoing throughout the year. And when you and I get back from Scotland, I have a lot of prep to do to get ready for the rally in October.
Yeah, that's a perfect segue into that. We'll be traveling down from Scotland all the way down to London and making stops along the way. We're going to do our very best to try to put that out on our social media. So head to the Underpowered Hours Instagram account. Is probably the easiest place. And we're going to be announcing meetups. We're also going to have special meetups in our Facebook group. So if you're not a part of the Facebook group, but you do want to see Liza and I, if for no other reason, just to get a sticker, then we're going to post that into the Facebook group specifically. So we're going to try to at least have a couple of meetups, maybe one in Scotland, one in the Midlands somewhere, and then one down around London so that we can find an opportunity, jump into a pub. And
that's going to be, we're going to be in Scotland from July 10th or 11th onwards from there, and then we're in the UK until the 23rd. So it's going to fall somewhere in that week and a half or so. Right.
If you bring your Freelander to those meetups, we'll give you a t-shirt. I think that's only fair.
I think that's fair.
I think that's fair. I think if you're willing to bring the undisputed king of Land Rovers out into the world for us to enjoy, then we'll throw a t-shirt at you. I think it's the least we can do.
I think we have to wrap this up or we're going to be an overpowered hour this week.
We certainly don't want that. So with that, it's been a slice, and we'll talk to you next week.
See you on the trails.
The Underpowered Hour is produced by Liza Barris, Ike Goss, and me, Steve Barris. Pavel Svardov composed and performed our theme music. Consider supporting the show on Patreon, and if you already do, thank you. Your support makes the show possible. For even more, check out our Instagram or Facebook.